I'm going to just tell a story about a lot of adventures I've had over the last, I don't know, 10 years or so. I've been in 22 countries teaching sociocracy and have just run into some wonderful people and had many adventures. One of the uh, clients that I'm proudest of is the Rainbow Community School in Asheville, North Carolina. Rainbow is very interesting. It's a private school because they are teaching a full spectrum of subjects, including ethics and spiritual practices like meditation. If you can imagine your kindergartner or first grader meditating, they do it there. And they also have used sociocracy for several years. One of the results of that is that the children have, in a recent test done by a company called Lectica of various skills that you might have, ranked Rainbow as the highest out of their 25,000 database. There is a test of reflective judgment, and it's absolutely astounding. They're not just a little bit better than the best people that they had tested beforehand. When you look at the lines on the graph, you can see that they're a whole lot better. And it shows of some of the amazing things that involving children in the running of the school and involving the faculty in the process of developing their instructional methods can do. Another adventure that actually this is one that Monika handled was the Handel Institute. And that's an example of a number of professional associations we have helped use sociocracy. Handel is all over the country, and they had some challenges with how their board was operating, and it's now a vibrant organization. My favorite co-op is the Blue Scorcher Bakery in Astoria, Oregon. They not only use fantastic ingredients, they have amazing bread, but they have provided a livelihood for a lot of people that might have been stuck in the gig economy otherwise. And now they are part owners of a real business that that they have a voice in. I mentioned that I wrote a book that combined beyond budgeting and agile and open space and sociocracy. There's many technologies out there. We felt that these were some of the key ones to have. And Titansoft, which is located in Singapore and Taiwan, is the first company that we are aware of that actually uses all four of those technologies. They're a very inventive company. They say we never stop developing, and look out, they're quite something. They program in 10 languages and do all kinds of amazing software. I mentioned that I brought Gerard Endenberg over to this country. The company that we together got going with sociocracy was Creative Urethanes. If you look at the picture here, you can see a little bit of a skateboard wheel. If you've been on a skateboard, you probably were on Creative Urethanes wheels. And it's an amazing company because they've managed to beat the Chinese competition in terms of getting costs down and having high quality. And there's a really interesting story from the Great Recession that happened in 2009. They were getting phone calls in 1 month from several of their customers saying, hi, we have to cancel our order because we're going out of business. And so Creative Urethanes realized that they had to do a layoff. And they did it because they were used to working together, working sociocratically. The general circle, like Monika mentioned, got together and it said, okay, we're going to do the layoff by considering the assets from the state as part of our assets, and we're going to figure out who gets laid off and not. And they did it by consent in a very warm way. People who were laid off would come in and bring cookies and chat. And the company survived, and today it's going again just fine. And it's an example of how a sociocratic organization really can work together in ways that would astound most companies. Brittany, you mentioned working together, living together on a farm. There are a number of co-housing and eco-village organizations that are now using sociocracy. This is a diagram of the circle structure of Pioneer Valley Co-housing in Amherst, Massachusetts. They're one of the original co-housing communities in the United States, and they've been now using sociocracy for several years and been quite happy with it as a way of making sure everybody was really connected and no power over games and that kind of thing. Living Well is a client of ours that we've had for quite some time that is an assisted living organization. They do holistic assisted living. They went from $500,000 budget, one facility with 15 beds in about 3 years to having over 100 beds in 3 different facilities. And there's lots of stories, wonderful stories to tell about it. But the most important is that there really is people from the ground floor on the board of directors. There's voices from all parts of the company. I mentioned I've been in several places. The Children's Inclusive Neighborhood Parliaments is an organization that started in India. If you're familiar with the state of Kerala, there's a lot of neighborhoods that are now by adults that are established there. That's helped them handle the coronavirus better than any other part of India. There are children's parliaments that use the neighborhood parliament method to organize and then to build up higher and higher levels of organization. I think they're in 14 Indian states now. There is a child prime minister of India who has spoken at the United Nations because this is a United Nations affiliated consulting organization. Lots of really neat stories to tell. They're aiming at having a children's summit in celebration of the UN's 75th anniversary. And it's amazing what children can do. The children's parliaments do all kinds of really real things. They're not mock parliaments, ranging from getting bridges built that needed to be built to handling child marriage problems, getting it stopped when social workers and others couldn't get it stopped. Education, again, Woodbury University out in Burbank, California, the School of Media, Culture, and Design has been using sociocracy for several years. The students are involved in running the school. They've doubled the number of students that they have, gotten big grants. And one of the amazing stories here is that the professors all decided that they were working too hard and suffering from it. So they evened out the workload and then passed a rule that said nobody could take work home at night. And you would think there was a lot not getting done. And they found some of the work wasn't getting done, but it was the low priority work. They're much fresher and they're doing even better. And it's an example of how working together, we can control some of these things that just seem overwhelming in our culture, like working too hard. America Solidaria is an organization based in Chile. It is a sort of the Chile equivalent of the Peace Corps. It's got offices throughout the Americas. It's in an organization that all of its offices are using sociocracy, and they are doing wonderful services throughout the Western Hemisphere. And then there's the question of government. That seems to be the slowest organization going in terms of getting on board using consent decision-making and structuring through the double linking that we described. There are spot cases around various places, but the clearest example of a government making consent decisions with its citizenry is in a town of about 50,000 in Holland called Utrechtse Heuvelrug. And they are documented in an article. And if you want me to send you a copy of it, this article is about 3 or 4 years old. It's in an academic peer-reviewed journal and describes how they're really having such an effective government now that the citizens are truly involved in making government decisions. And there are many, many, many other examples. If you can think of it, It's probably got somebody doing using sociocracy. Brittany mentioned doing it with her family. There's a lot of families that have found good results by involving everybody from the little children to the elderly in making joint decisions together using consent decision making. So Monica, that's a quick run through of some of our clients and some of the places and types of organizations that are using sociocracy.